Stories have been told as long as people have existed. Stories of ghouls, monsters, and other fascinating creatures. These stories don't scare us though because we know that they're fake. We can simply brush them off as mere imagination. Our story today is called The Children of Woolpit. This story was recorded by Ralph of Coggeshall, a Catholic official, and William of Newburgh, a historian. What separates The Children of Woolpit from other stories is that we do not know if the story is fake or not. Many people swear by the story and it has been passed down from generation to generation. This is not an open and shut story. There are many specific details including what they ate and how they lived after the story ended. In this video, I will be telling you the story of the two green children that appeared on a field in Woolpit. Our story occurs in the small village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England, sometime during the 12th century. The villagers of Woolpit discovered two children in a field, presumably brother and sister. Some versions of the story say that they were found in a wolf pit, which is a hole dug in the ground to trap wolves, hence the town's name of Woolpit. Villagers were amazed by the children. They were wearing different clothes than the villagers were. They spoke in a language that the villagers had never heard, and strangest of all, their skin was green. The children were taken to the home of Richard de Caines, a local landowner. Villagers tried to feed the children because they looked starving, but they refused to eat. They only started eating when they saw beans on a cart from a farm in the village. They only ate beans and refused to eat all other foods. They survived off of beans for months until they started eating bread. The children continued to live in Woolpit, only eating beans and bread. Over time, their brother became ill and subsequently died. The sister, however, continued to live in Woolpit and eventually lost a green skin and learned how to speak English. As time went on, the girl supposedly became a servant at Richard de Caines' house. When she got older, she married a man who was a senior ambassador of King Henry II. She lived the rest of her life with him in Kingsland, Norfolk, which was only 40 miles away from Woolpit. After she got married, she took on the name Agnes Barr and began to recount her story. Agnes could only remember certain details about where she was from and how she got to Woolpit. She said that her and her brother came from the land of St. Martin's, where there was little to no sun. She described it as perpetual twilight. She stated that everyone there was green, just like her and her brother, and that there was another luminous land across a considerable river. She described that her and her brother were trying to find their father's flock when they stumbled upon a cave. They heard the loud jingling of bells coming from deep inside the cave. Curious, they wandered into the cave in order to find the source of the jingling. Eventually, they found the opening of the cave and walked through it, where they were greeted with incredibly bright sunlight. This terrified the children and they sat on the ground in a daze. Once they saw people coming towards them, they tried to go back into the cave, but they couldn't find the opening before the villagers caught them. And that's where the story ends. That's all we know about the children, and that's all that Agnes told us. But don't look away just yet. I'm going to provide some of the many explanations of the story. The story's authenticity has been disputed over many years because, quite frankly, it sounds ridiculous. Little green children suddenly popping up and claiming that they're from a strange underground land is an outlandish claim. But, due to the extreme detail of the story, many people believe that there were actually green children, but Agnes's backstory is just a foggy memory from when she was a young child. People believe that the children had hyperchromic anemia, which is a disease that makes the red blood cells have a green tint. This, in turn, gives their skin a greenish hue. Hyperchromic anemia is caused by a poor diet, which would explain why once the children started eating regular food rather than just beans, they lost their green tint. This is also a reasonable explanation because the children could have been poor and did not have a well-rounded diet where they came from. Their strange underground home that Agnes called St. Martin's Land could be explained by a nearby town. The children could have been Flemish orphans from an orphanage in the nearby town of Fornham St. Martin's. Fornham was separated from Woolpit by the River Lork, which would explain the nearby luminous town that is separated by a great river. During the 12th century, Flemish immigrants were persecuted and killed by King Henry II, which coincidentally was who her husband worked for. The children could have fled and hid out in a forest where there was little to no light. This could explain the perpetual twilight nature of St. Martin's Land. The children could have also wandered into a mining tunnel, which were common in that area. This could explain the story of the children wandering in a cave and ending up in Woolpit. This theory was suggested by Paul Harris, an attorney and founder of the Rotary Club. This theory sounds very possible, but it still does not explain how the children were chasing their father's flock. If they were orphans, they wouldn't have a father. Agnes could also be referring to a Catholic priest who are called fathers, which is likely considering that she would have been in a Catholic orphanage. Also, in this theory, the children were running away from people that were persecuting them, but in Agnes's story, her and her brother were chasing the father's flock, not fleeing from danger. Although this theory sounds the most reasonable, there are still parts of the story that the theory cannot explain. It also sucks all of the fun and all of the excitement out of the story. Because of this, the most popular and most liked theory is that the children were actually from a strange underground land where there was no light and everyone was green. This theory may not be the most reasonable one, but it is certainly the most fun theory to believe. It opens our minds to the possibility that strange underground worlds inhabited by green people exist underneath our feet. I hope this video was entertaining, and I hope you come up with your own theories as to who these children were and where they came from. Because this is my first ever YouTube video, I would greatly appreciate it if you left feedback. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like and comment about what I should keep on doing. If you didn't like the video, tell me how I can make my videos better. Until next time, have an open mind and know that anything is possible.